Hi everyone, welcome back to Missy's Enchanted Channel. Hope you guys had a beautiful day today or night. I actually did. I had the day off yesterday and today, and you know, it was my weekend. Gotta go back tomorrow, but I have Monday off, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I know I got weird days off, so but enough of that. We are going to be reading True Tales of Ghostly Encounters. We're actually on chapter 12, so we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. All right. Who knows? Maybe by Halloween I can get to the, I think it was Gothic. It was a Gothic book or something like that. So yeah, who knows? We'll see what happens. All right. We are going to be reading The Missing Documents. My grandmother Latte Langdon had a suit pending in 1920 over some of her real estate holdings in Wisconsin. Her lawyer, Herbert Marshall, asked her several times for a certain document fixing the debatable borders of the estate in litigation, but grandmother stubbornly refused to turn over the paper supporting her claims. I'll hold on to this paper if I die over it, she stated. There is no use risking it out of my hands. That July, she did die suddenly one evening at supper while the whole family was present. Now, Mr. Marshall had not only the pending suit, but also the settlement of her estate on his busy hands. We searched all over the house for her legal papers, but without success. The lack of the critical document deprived Mr. Marshall of his most potent argument in court, but along with the rest of her documents, it was missing, and we feared grandmother had taken the secret of its hiding place with her to the grave. On the fourth day after her death, Mr. Marshall had joined the family for dinner and was laminating the old lady's stubbornness in his future fight in court. Dinner was being served by our maid, Berth, who had been with the family for 40 years. In the midst of the meal, our conversation was interrupted by a loud scream for Berth, followed by the sound of shattering dishes in the hallway. We rushed to the hallway through which Berth passed on her way from the kitchen and found her standing among the ruins of a sumptuous supper, white and trembling, pointing toward the high-backed chair that stood next to the old-fashioned grandfather clock. Grandmother had so often rested in this chair after she came in from a walk or from puttering in her garden that the family jokingly referred to it as her throne. When Berth finally was calm enough to talk coherently, she claimed that as she passed through the hallway with the tray of food, she had seen grandmother sitting on a throne, gently stroking her grandfather clock. We talked excitedly about this, but Mr. Marshall called Berth an hysterical old fool and turned the conversation to more mundane matters. Perhaps we might have forgotten the incident if we had not been forcefully reminded of it the very next evening when the same thing recurred. When Berth was walking through the hallway, she again saw grandmother seated on a chair, and again she dropped the tray. The matter grew frighteningly when the same thing was repeated on the third night. The excitement only added to our concern over the pending trial that would begin in only 2 days now. Mr. Marshall was running in circles trying to find either the missing document or some other proof that would clinch the case. After the third appearance of grandmother's apparition, however, Grandfather Williams Langdon, a cool, practical man who at first attributed Berth's vision to her long, close relationship to the family, said to us, "Listen, my dears, I wonder, perhaps it's ridiculous, but no harm can come from this. If Grandmama did not want to tell us where," hold on, if I can turn the page, "her missing papers are," she stroked the clock, "let's search within." We did, and behold, in a hidden double back behind the swinging pendulum were grandmother's papers. The suit was won, and Berth received an ample reward in addition to her set-out share in grandmother's will. And never again was grandmother seen to occupy her throne. And this was from Paul C. Langdon, as told to Hereward Carrington, Chicago, Illinois, April 1974. See, she was there for a reason. She was trying to tell them where it was, but they stubbornly did not listen. So at least they finally got it in the end. All right, now we go on to what had he left behind. When I was a young child, my grandfather John Colson lived with us in our home in Erin, New York. He was bedridden and finally died in the spring of 1949. During his lengthy illness, he used to holler, "Hello," whenever he wanted anything. As his condition became worse, the frequency of his calls increased, and whoever was nearby would try to tend to his needs. After he died, we continued to hear his voice and his familiar call of hello. Everyone in the house heard it. We searched the house many times to find any unusual sound that might be misinterpreted as his voice, but we found nothing. My mother insisted that it was a trick of memory, but we children were convinced it was grandfather's ghost. The climax came Christmas Eve 1949 when the adults all were out of the house. My cousin, my brother, and sister, our dog, and I were home alone. Our German Shepherd was a bit too friendly to excel as a watchdog, but nevertheless she always raised an alarm if strangers were near the house at night. We all heard the first noise from grandfather's room. The dog bristled, then whined as she took refuge behind the davenport. Her unusual behavior scared us more than the original noise. It sounded as if someone were searching frantically through the room. Drawers banged and the closet door slammed. Then silence. The dog crawled from her hiding place and 4 terrified youngsters began to relax and search for an explanation. We checked the room and found nothing out of place. The only window was closed and locked from the inside. That was the last manifestations of any kind from grandfather's room. Never again did we hear his voice. We don't know what caused the disturbance, but the 4 of us like to believe that grandfather found what he was looking for and now has no more reason to return. I don't know. What can I say about this one? At least he found what he wanted, right? I mean, that's always good. And that was from J.M. Swan, Pine Valley, New York, September 1967. All right, and now we move on to the final flight. At 3 o'clock the morning after we buried my dad, Thomas Hogan in Queens, New York, the front door slammed and the large mirror over the sideboard in the dining room hit the floor. It did not break or shatter. For 15 years, Dad had slammed that door at 3 o'clock after a night out in his favorite tavern. My mother, Ruth Hogan, often scolded him, saying that one day the mirror would fall, but it never had until now. My grandfather, William O'Shea, and I were frightened, but nevertheless we started down the stairs. We stopped when we heard the door to the basement close and footsteps going down the stairs. Continuing on down, we saw the mirror. We went to the basement door, but could not hear nothing. We locked the door and decided to wait until daylight for further action. After Mother's suicide by hanging the year before, on January 4th, 1948, Dad had chosen to sleep in the basement. He also hanged himself there on June 18th, 1949, when he was 46 years old. The next morning, Grandfather and I continued our search and thought the strange, pungent smell of death was present. We checked the 2 windows in the basement bedroom. They were locked, and so was the one in the laundry area. We looked at each other and decided to forget it. That same afternoon, I was out in the backyard with my son, Kenneth, when I heard something hidden those same bedroom windows. I was amazed to see a fairly large bird frantically trying to break through the glass from the inside. I called out to Grandpa, asking him to go down to the basement and unlock the back door. A few seconds later, after Grandpa had joined us in the garden, the bird flew out. It circled over our heads 3 times, then perched on the garden gate nearby, watching us. When I said, "You are free to go," the bird circled my head once more, then flew away. Life with Dad had not been easy. I had the strange feeling he was asking for forgiveness now that his spirit was going to another plane. You know, sometimes they do come back in another form and everything. So, that's definitely possible. Eleanor Page, St. Petersburg, Florida, January 1988. Okay, I'm going to read one more. And that is on the midnight shift. I experienced quite a few unexplainable events on the midnight shift during my 13 years as a New York City police officer. One night, about 8 years ago, Central sent me my partner and me on a call for an apparent break-in. The house where the alarm had sounded was an old 3-story A-frame. It had a window up in the 3rd floor attic that faced the street. My partner and I exited the patrol car and searched the outside of the property for evidence of a break-in. We didn't notice anything unusual in the yard or outside of the house, so we proceeded to the front door. I knocked on the door and stepped away to check the window. In the 3rd floor attic window, I saw the blinds get pushed to the side, and I can barely make out the face of someone looking down at us. I said to my partner, "It's going to be a minute. They're up on the 3rd floor." Before I finished saying that, the front door began to open, and old woman asked us to come in. We proceeded into the home. She had 3 dogs that barked incessantly. After a brief conversation, she stated she was living alone. Since I had seen someone up on the 3rd floor, it meant that she really was not alone. We didn't want to alarm the woman, so we told her we wanted to check out the house, just to be sure. After checking the 1st floor, we told her we wanted to check upstairs. As we walked toward the stairs to the 2nd floor, I asked her, "Have you ever had a problem with the alarm before?" She told me that the only other time it kept going off for no apparent reason was on the night of her husband's birthday. We continued up the stairs, not thinking anything of her response. She then said that it was odd because tonight was the 1-year anniversary of his death. My partner and I shot each other a look and thought something strange was going on. We searched the 2nd floor and didn't find anything. The windows were locked tight, just like on the 1st floor, and there was no apparent sign of a break-in to trigger the alarm. There was just one other floor to check. From what I had seen earlier, I knew there was someone upstairs. I asked her how to get into the attic. She pointed at a door and said, "Behind that door, there's a flight of stairs." I looked at my partner. He said he was not going up there. I wasn't too happy, but since I definitely saw someone, I wasn't going to leave. I proceeded up the stairs, found the switch, and turned on the light. It was apparent no one had been up there for a long time. It was a big, dark, empty attic. I went to the window that faced the street. It was locked, as was the window that faced the back. After searching the attic, I told her the alarm must have malfunctioned because no one was in her home. We told her to call us if it ever happened again. We didn't want to tell her what it really was. Her late husband paying her a visit. So she had no clue at all. So, but they know. Ed Thorgerson, Hartsville, New York, June 2001. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I like these stories because, as I stated before, you know, when someone dies and everything, you always want a reassurance that they're okay, you know, and it comes in all forms, as you can tell, with all the different stories that are in here. And yeah, it just hits home, you know. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If so, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you guys have any stories or whatever, you know, you can either put them in the comments below, or I think I have my email over there if you want to email me, and, you know, or if you want any of your stories told, you know, let me know. And I can read them from the email. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. Don't forget to subscribe. Be part of the family. Bye. Mwah.